again, everyone, and welcome back to Reddit Aliens. I'm John, and as always, thank you so much for being here. Good topic for you today. Let's do it. What are some of the darkest and scariest rabbit holes you've ever gone down? Please remember to like, share, comment, hype, listen and ask for shoutouts, and subscribe. The more I read about cults, the less I think I'd be immune to joining one. You start out thinking, how could anyone fall for that? Then you learn about sleep deprivation, isolation, love bombing, sunk cost fallacy, and gradual escalation. It's way less about intelligence than timing and vulnerability. That rabbit hole was genuinely unsettling. Chip Chan. Back in the late 2000s, people found a live stream of a woman living in a tiny apartment in Seoul. She believed a corrupt ex-policeman had implanted a stalker chip in her ankle that kept her asleep for up to 20 hours a day and controlled her mind. What made it disturbing wasn't a ghost or a jump scare. It was watching raw, unedited, severe mental illness play out in real time for years. She set up multiple webcams streaming 24/7, covered her walls in handwritten signs warning viewers about her pesterer, and spent days sleeping in contorted positions on the floor, barely moving. You'd drop into the stream at 3 a.m. and just watch this woman completely trapped in her own psychological nightmare, totally oblivious to the thousands of strangers watching her every move. The Danko thread. On an early Japanese precursor to 4chan, a dude started live posting about watching a girl he was obsessed with. The goons all egged him on to stalk her and post while he was doing it. It eventually hit the point where they realized the creepy guy was legitimately terrifying this girl, and that they were enabling a dangerously unstable loner. This is niche, to say the least, but about 8 years ago, I was being harassed online by a Sufjan Stevens fan blog. I found her main account, and it turns out she had erotomania over Sufjan Stevens that manifested in almost a decade of obsessively blogging about the signs he was sending her, and her in real life stalking him while claiming he was the one stalking her. The Sarah saga. Clearly mentally ill girl moves in with a group of young professionals while lying about her employment status, etc. She refuses to pay rent or contribute in any way, invites her friends over, repeatedly trashes the place and won't leave, etc. At first, the other housemates do everything they can to support her. Then their support turns to desperation, as she clearly has no intentions of helping herself and is happy to just ruin everyone's lives. The story is told in a blog by the other housemates. Back in 2012, a mysterious group started posting ultra-complex puzzles across 4chan, deep websites, and even physical locations worldwide. Posters taped to streetlights in Tokyo, Paris, and LA. To this day, nobody knows for sure who was behind it or what the actual end goal was, whether it was high-level intelligence recruitment, a secret society, or something far weirder. I was playing an ARG on a forum almost 20 years ago and forgot the premise, but I ended up digging into some information tangentially related to the topic looking for info. I stumbled on a news group concerning a Saudi prince and blueprints for a power plant in the US. I remember asking the mod if this was part of the game, and he informed me I should probably contact the FBI. I was curious about the Epstein files and decided to spend about 10 minutes reading them. Around 3 hours afterwards, I was just left in shock on how many people were involved with it, and how they are still so popular and beloved, even though it's revealed in the files what they had done. It honestly makes me feel awful for months, and makes me sick how we just have to work and live like nothing ever happened when they continue doing the same thing to this day. Back in the mid-2000s or so, I would climb through some lascivious websites, and one of them had photos, videos, and a forum, and there was one video, probably and hopefully long deleted by now, among the hundreds that were uploaded per day, was kind of like a travelogue of a young teenager who took a trip abroad to Eastern Europe that was sponsored by her church back home in America. I think in the southeast somewhere. Apparently, the church would regularly send their young parishioners on these trips, videotape the travels, and then sell those tapes among the rest of the congregation so they could see what their trip was like. Except in these videos, the young teens would be completely nude. They do things like dance nude, swim nude, model nude. Well, apparently things got a little dicey when they started recording these teens masturbating, and the authorities got involved. Whole thing was real hush-hush. I can't even find news stories about it to reference. But I saw enough of one video to know that the story was absolutely true. The video makes it no secret that the teens were paired up with a sponsor in Europe, and their job was to make them feel like what they were doing was completely normal, and then get them nude on video. The narration of the video explained it differently than I did. In the same way, all groomers and manipulators bend the truth in their favor. So they described it as this was the kind of trip everybody takes and tried to completely normalize it. Would love if anyone could verify the story, because I feel like with all the revelations of child groomers and traffickers in the last 10 to 15 years, it's part of this weird grooming society that P's and their accomplices use to hide their behavior from the rest of the world, and this one involved a close-knit church community. There's a rather robust alternate universe wiki called Conservapedia. It was created by the son of some rather politically prolific white supremacists and has nearly 60,000 articles chock full of gibbering insanity. You can get lost gazing into the maw of madness. Final Fantasy House. The idea of a cult based on a 90s video game taking over so many people's lives was kind of bizarre to me, and it apparently ties into a few similar stories from later dates too. Also, recall hearing that the folks involved try to get involved in other fandoms in a similar way. Weird religious adjacent conspiracy theories. My mother fell for one of these, and then more and more. Now her belief system is a Frankenstein's abomination of many conspiracies and other weirdo garbage all rolled into one. It's all interconnected in one giant web. All the conspiracies you've heard of and haven't heard of, old or recent, all grouped together under one giant complex web of connections. Now, couple that with the spiritual beliefs, also part of the web, but not a conspiracy theory by definition, that forbids critical thinking as heresy, and you have a recipe for disaster. My mom is now a person who believes in her stuff with the energy of a religious zealot, forbids criticism of her and the belief system itself, and since she's done away with the mental faculties to question what she's exposed to, she then falls into and believes all the conspiracies she's exposed to following that. The cult-like religious adjacent spiritual beliefs came first, laid the groundwork for everything else, and then all the conspiracies got incorporated in later. She's a mess, and I warn anyone to stay as far away as they can from The Secret and the Law of Attraction. That shit is dangerous. These are all great. I've definitely found myself down some of these. Some of them that were described, some not. Again, I kind of had the internet as an adult, so we got to see when the internet was still cool, like 2008 to 2014. Then it got a little whatever. I don't know. Maybe you guys remember it. It was better. There goes another curmudgeon. But yeah, a lot of stuff, a lot of 9/11 stuff, the greatest hits. Missing person stuff, for sure. Military conspiracies, yes. Yeah. See you soon. Fell into a multi-hour hole reading about unresolved missing persons cases on a forum called Web Sleuths. Started with one case out of curiosity and ended up 4 a.m. deep reading about people who vanished without a trace decades ago. Some with genuinely unsettling details that never got explained. Had to close my laptop and just sit there for a minute. I saw bits and pieces of a lot of the images from the Epstein files in 2016. I did acid after my finals, as you do, was tripping balls and reading Reddit, randomly saw an old post about Jeff Magnum being a time traveler, which led to 4chan threads and dossiers about Pizzagate, the Wayfair stuff, and Epstein himself. It was a wild afternoon. Thought nothing of it for years. Half of me hoped they were just conspiratorial bullshit. Then, when they released some of the Epstein files this year, a lot of the pictures they showed on the news were the stuff that I saw. Not so much scary, but unsettling. Mostly harmless, an unidentified hiker Doe spent so much time scrolling through random Appalachian Trail photos, hoping to tie this guy to an event, get closer to his name, then ended up coming his death scene photos, haunting. Those photos being available served no purpose and are something I've never been able to fully shake. Years ago now, but I once stumbled across a P-ring on Reddit. I can't remember all the details, but I do remember that the common link was they all posted coded comments on posts in Demon Dice subreddits and would respond to each other with the same sort of coded comments. I started to call them out and post evidence on their comments, then dozens of different accounts started to spam and harass me, eventually going as far as to dox me and send death threats to me and my family. Ended up having to get the police involved, but nothing came of it. Last I looked, I didn't see them around anymore, but at the time it was a network of around 120 different accounts. I've been down plenty of horrifying internet rabbit holes over the years, mostly on Wikipedia. One rabbit hole I've gone down a few times is that I looked up a bunch of crowd-crushed disasters on Wikipedia. These are incidents in which there's an extremely large gathering of people crowded together so tightly that people become unable to move and breathe with other people pressing against them. People die in crowd crushes, and the crowd is so big and noisy that most others in the crowd don't even realize it's happening. Sometimes people die standing upright, and other times it's because they fell down and people stepped on or fell on top of them. It's a truly bizarre and shocking way to die. I've also looked up many missing person cases on Wikipedia. Those are always creepy to read about, and I rarely look at those articles anymore because they disturb me so much. Another rabbit hole I started to go down but soon stopped because I didn't want to look anymore was right here on Reddit. A few days ago I discovered the r/my-boyfriend-is-AI, and it's so disheartening and discouraging to see it. I dislike AI in general, and about this specifically. It's so sad that people are viewing AI tools the same way they'd view a human companion. Don't tell me it's just a joke or something. It's not. They actually feel emotionally attached to these bots and even generate pics of them going on dates with them. They don't think there are any downside to treating a bot as if it were human. There was a woman after that had a personal cooking show or blog on YouTube, and CK developed a huge fascination about her because she was pretty cute, not gonna lie, but it went too far. People were posting absurd shit in the threads as they always do. I'm sure you can imagine what kind of shit 4chan can come up with. People started taking screenshots of the posts, referencing this woman and sending them to her. She rightfully so freaked the F out and deleted her entire online presence. Scary? Mother horse eyes. Going through that in real time was making me lose sleep. Gross? Blowfly girl. Was not around for that. Did not like getting caught up. Depressing? A person in a military subreddit was posting about lack of mental health. A commenter came in and began blaming everything on MKUltra. Their account was old, made during 2018 I think, and they were verifiable in the army during late Afghanistan withdrawal. Very clearly schizophrenia, because everything they posted was about how MKUltra was continuing. Everyone in the army got chips from vaccines. There was organ harvesting once you got pumped with enough drugs. Like every post from 2018 was that. Very sad to know this person needs help and is beyond it. how massive and actually terrifying the Manhattan Project was and still is, haunting us today in legacy sites, which most are still radioactive and not cleaned up properly. They just told people they were helping out the government and the war effort. Lots of women workers in the factories. They, of course, could not fathom what materials they were handling at the time. The victims of the downwind tests, etc. Overall, the secrecy and magnitude was staggering at the time, 1940s. In 2010, there was a forum of young men talking about how to pick up women and teaching each other how to call themselves pickup artists. They mentioned books by some sleazy authors, one of them a stage magician. Some paid very expensive boot camps with these guys. They exchanged ideas about how to be and where to pick up a woman more easily. Talked about clothing and fitness and all of that. I lived in an extremely remote place at the time and had limited access to the internet, so I only scratched the surface of the movement before they kicked me out for asking too many questions. Turns out, that movement would eventually branch out into the red pill, incel, manosphere, and many other misogynistic cults. On the intel, I knew they were going toward a dangerous direction with all those weird theories about how women were evolutionarily prone to sleeping around with so-and-so men before settling down in another kind of man. They didn't even have the alpha-beta nomenclature yet, but I always thought they would remain hidden and fringe instead of becoming mainstream. Usage of herbal medicine or alternative medicine. Why scary? You'll have these people pass these strange exams based on ancient books written by gods prescribing medication that is causing liver failure in all ages. You have XYZ problem? Take this pill made in the same area as mercury or arsenic because apparently cross-contamination isn't a thing and enjoyed jaundice and liver failure later. The whole aspect of it, the education they do, the acceptance in society, the preservation of it spreading to other countries as if it's a normal thing to have herbal meds being the primary mother's need. Medicine and pharmacies are terrifying. The whole pregnant mother needs to be treated with incest first, painkillers later, is madness. The Taylor Schabusiness case, just extremely bizarre. She kills her buddy while they're f***ing and on meth by choking him to death with a chain. They had done erotic asphyxiation before, but this time she just didn't stop until he was dead. Then she chops off his head and his pets and continues to have with his head and the for several hours, according to her interrogation videos. She also removed his internal organs. When asked why, she told the cops that it turned her on. She puts the dismembered body parts in various places all around the basement apartment, and his mother, who finally comes down to look for him, sees her son's head in one of the buckets and calls the cops. Their arrival on the scene was all recorded on body cams, including when they discovered the body parts. They go over to her apartment to question her. She's matter-of-fact about the whole thing. She tells the cops, good luck finding the organs. She's not even upset, just a matter-of-fact and calm. Freaky video. The trial was televised, and boy was it surreal. At one point, without any hint of what's coming, she attacked her own attorney right there in the courtroom. She's restrained like Hannibal Lecter. After that, a forensic psychologist who assessed her testified that Schabusiness told her she had a thing with Jeffrey Dahmer a year ago. Apparently she was obsessed with the Dahmer case and saw him as a role model. Wisconsin strong. She filed an insanity plea, and the question became if she was competent to stand trial. They called her father in as a witness, and he was already an inmate in the system, so they marched him into the courtroom in his orange jumpsuit. He said, "I believe everybody makes bad choices, maybe not to this scale. The whole thing was gloriously absurd and even funny, except the course for the fact that she was and murdered that guy in such a gruesome way. More recently, she attacked a prison sergeant as well and got sentenced for that on top of her life without parole that she already serves. Her whole story is odd. Her name wasn't even really Taylor Shabusiness. She just got herself that name because she thought it was cool. She's a mother apparently. Lucky her kid was 2 at the time and won't remember this. The behavior is in line with someone who is a serial killer. The murder, the dismemberment, and the arousal from it, the psychopathy. The only reason she's not considered a serial killer is that she got caught on the first one, at least that we know of, and you need 3 to be called a serial killer. That's lucky, because I have no doubt she'd kill again. She worked at Walmart. I couldn't stop consuming anything and everything about this case and watched the trial in full from the start to finish. I can't wait for the movie. One of the darkest rabbit holes I've ever fallen into was accidentally discovering what appeared to be organized child exploitation communities on NSFW Twitter and X. I'm an NSFW creator, so I'd occasionally stumble across accounts through replies or DMs that all had the same weird patterns. Same hashtags, coded symbol, telegram links, and posts that felt deliberately crafted to stay just on the legal side of plausible deniability. After seeing the same dog whistles repeated over and over, I realized I wasn't just looking at edgy porn accounts. I'd wandered into a network of people who appeared to be seeking or trading CSAM. I reported everything I found and hoped it would disappear, but I recently came across an even bigger account doing what looked like the same thing, with thousands of likes and people openly asking each other to swap Telegram in the comments. The scariest part wasn't handing or finding it, it was realizing how visible it all seemed to be, and how powerless it felt after repeating and reporting it. It's one of those internal rabbit holes I genuinely wish I'd never gone down. 2 arms and a head. An essay written by a man who hit a donkey on his motorcycle and ended up losing all feeling in his body below his ribcage, eventually resulting in the man killing himself. He's clearly highly intelligent, and by his account, his life before the accident was amazing. He was attractive, social, charismatic, took cross-country trips. Basically, he lived a very full life. The essay goes into every counter-argument on why he shouldn't kill himself, why he's not depressed or crazy and can make this choice with a soundboard, philosophy, how his life is now, how differently he's treated, how annoying positivity comes off to him. I mean, he even goes into extreme detail on what an enormous struggle just using the bathroom is. It's such an unflinching and deep look into what is actually likely to be a paraplegic. He published this essay online before his death, and it goes after the way up his arm to his eventual suicide. And I mean all the way up to. He literally describes what stabbing himself in the gut felt like, and his last thoughts as he began bleeding out. It was the most brutal thing I'd ever read and genuinely fucked me up for years. When I was in elementary, there was a website called rotten.co, that spread by word of mouth in school. Curiosity killed me and my friends, and on a sleepover we browsed what I would call now part of the dark web. It was pictures and information of dead people in the more compromising and horrifying way they did. AI didn't exist back then, and parental supervision was limited when you were on the computer. One particularly still imprinted on my mind was a big fat guy that fell asleep in a hot tub, basically cooked, literally, and wasn't found till days later after decomposing bodies were on full display without censorship. Things like that and more were on there.